So recently, a bunch of unaired pilots found their way online, dating back to the 90s. What I want to do is look at these pilots and determine two things. 1. Did it have potential? And 2. How different would popular culture be if this pilot was picked up for series? Today we're opening up the pilot vault and looking at the pilot for a show called World of Trouble. It stars Idris Elba, not long after he finished up his work on The Wire, and 5 years before he did Luther. So this is very early on in his career. Idris Elba is a fantastic actor. I recently saw him in Hijack, that Apple TV show that he did, and he's easily the best part of it. Every performance of his always takes me by surprise. Like watching him as Charles Miner in The Office, my mind doesn't connect him to Luther. That's how good he is. Spoilers, he's not great in this. He doesn't have much to work with, really. This pilot followed Joan Denny, leading a team of investigators charged with investigating violent crimes against American citizens on foreign soil. So, a bit like Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, I suppose. Always confused me there, how it was a show about the international branch of the FBI. Isn't that just the CIA? Anyway, let's crack on and watch this. We start with two Russians chatting. I really like how the subtitles appear. It's quite satisfying. Much better than just doing normal subtitles. Already, at this point, it's noticeable that this pilot had a huge budget, because they make a proper big set. If it is a set, they could be shooting on location, but even so, that's huge. Some Russians assassinate a reporter. We then cut to Joan and her daughter, and the dialogue in this scene is dreadful. The daughter character just says exactly what she is feeling, which is a very worse way you can write dialogue. Idris Elba then comes in. Oh, sorry. Bad choice of words. Idris Elba then appears and gets a message from the task force. All the other members get these alerts too. We see them leaving their families and rushing out into the night. The team are off to Moscow to investigate the assassination of that reporter from before. The team then quote the Beatles song Back in the USSR because, you know, they're going to Russia. A bit on the nose, but hey, I'll give it a pass because it's the Beatles. I'm pretty certain this stuff is actually shot on location in the Red Square. It looks too good to be a green screen. What the hell was the budget for this show? We must be looking at a multi-million-dollar pilot. No wonder this never got the green light for series. The case they're looking at isn't exactly interesting, which isn't a great start, and the pilot itself is pretty slow paced. What's the difference between something being a slow burn and just plain boring? Because sometimes I'll watch an episode of Better Call Saul and just be falling asleep. Is there a difference? Maybe my attention span is just really bad. Because they're in Russia and they're worried the place is bugged with listening devices, they have conversations through typing on a Word document, which actually is a pretty interesting device. I quite enjoyed it. Idris Elba isn't in a committed relationship, his character anyway. He's chatting up Russian women in the hotel, while Christian Carmargo is a family man who also isn't in a committed relationship, as he sleeps with another member of the team. Christian played Dexter's brother in one of the later seasons of Dexter. He's not even credited for this pilot on his IMDb, so I have no idea what his character's name is. I think it's Taylor, but I've got no idea. We'll just call him Christian. I'll tell you what, this pilot is so slow. Like, it's unbelievable how much time can pass without anything of interest happening. At first I figured it must just be like budget reasons why this never got commissioned for a full series, but no, it's definitely because the people at the network would have been falling asleep watching it. So boring. Christian goes to a Russian police station and is waiting forever. We know he's made to wait forever, because we're forced to wait with him. It reminds me of the movie Moon, how they established in that film that the character was bored by boring us, so we just sat around watching him sat around on the moon for a bit. That's not how you portray boredom. Thankfully, he gets a chance to talk with someone because one of the officers is excited by the idea of working with the FBI. I feel like this is very American, isn't it? Oh, the Russians will bend over backwards to work with someone as cool as us. It's a very American mindset. Christian and one of the other agents is then pulled over by a bunch of Russians and they are kidnapped. I really like the sound engineering in this scene because it genuinely makes it feel more like an alien abduction than a kidnapping. Incredible work by the editing room. They make some advancements in the case, which, I'll be honest, aren't very interesting. I was falling asleep for most of this and didn't really take any of it in. There's a bit where Christian looks like he's being interviewed for a mockumentary, complete with even the weird zoom that they do on the American version of The Office. But it turns out he's just talking to the maid in the hotel. The purpose of this scene is so he can make a joke about how he's glad she doesn't speak English after he poured his heart out to her. But guess what? She does speak English. Yeah, not necessarily a funny bit, but you know, I've got no idea why they wasted the time on this. The script was already bloated enough. We didn't need this bit. The bits he shot on location are certainly beautiful. It looks great, don't get me wrong, but the dialogue is so unnatural and meaningless. It doesn't feel natural. I can't imagine a universe where this script got past 2 people. I would have been highlighting so many lines in this going, no, this needs changing, this needs changing. How do these scripts get past people? The team prepped to make the big arrest of the person responsible for the assassination. Yeah, I've got no idea who it is because the way they discussed this case was so boring that I couldn't take any of it in. I didn't understand what they were saying. I may as well have been watching a foreign language film for all I cared about the dialogue. I'm not sure if I'm even to blame here, to be honest. It's the pilot's job to entertain me. If I'm not entertained and following along, then it's failed, hasn't it? The person they're trying to arrest sneaks through a secret door like he's some sort of Scooby-Doo character. So Idris Elba stalks him through a building. The lights are all flashing just to hammer home that this is meant to be tense and spooky. I mean, the location scouts certainly did a good job here. Everywhere they go is really aesthetically pleasing. Like this warehouse that Idris Elba runs through, it looks great. It's just a shame that the script is so crap. The bad guy reveals that he did all this stuff for political reasons because of some incident that happened where people got killed. I have got no idea if the incident they're talking about actually happened or if it's fictional. It could genuinely go either way. The writers are being just generic enough to get away with it. Who knows if the reason why he killed that reporter is based on true events. I don't think I care, if I'm gonna be honest. Honestly, I'm gutted that this pilot was rubbish. It very easily could have been interesting. The cast were all decent, but the writing just wasn't there. There wasn't enough for Idris Elba to work with. Idris talks to some guy who gives him some photos of the team. He's clearly been stalking the team the whole time. What does this mean? Nothing. Nothing really. It's meaningless. It goes absolutely nowhere. Joan then calls her boring daughter from the start of the episode. You know, the one who just said aloud exactly what she was thinking and feeling. She doesn't answer the phone, and this pilot was never picked up for series, so we will never know if Joan ever repairs her relationship with her daughter. And to be honest, I don't really care. Joan and her daughter can gather dust in the pilot vault for all I care. I guarantee you, I will have forgotten about both of these characters like a day or 2 after I've finished editing this video. They're completely forgettable. The team go to return home, but then they get another call, another job, one that we will never see. I wonder if this next case he worked on was anywhere near as boring as this one. Thankfully, we'll never find out. Now, it's not going to surprise you guys if I rank this very low down in the rankings, so let's see. Was it worse than Nancy Drew? I'm going to say yeah. Here's why. Because as annoyed as I was at Drew, at least I understood what was going on. There was so much boring crap going on in this pilot that I was genuinely starting to fall asleep. I always say that the worst crime one of these pilots can commit is being boring. So I'm gonna stick it right behind Drew. World of Trouble was especially insulting because of how decent the cast was. I mean, Idris Elba, how could you go so wrong? Oh, and I'm working on a new rankings list, by the way. A comment said that I should use a tier list, and I thought that was a brilliant suggestion, so thank you very much for that. Subscribe to see me talk about more Unaired pilots and help us get to 4K. Right, I'll let you go. Bye.